want to plan for a year, plant rice. If you want to plan for 20 years, plant trees. If you want to plan for 100 years, plant education. Acknowledge who you are, learn from your mistakes, be your own hero, put your heart in whatever you do, and make your little effort to help others. And lastly, network, network, and network, and never give up. People think networking is all about getting something out of it. But for me, relationships and networking is all about giving back something.
Each one of us has a story to tell, a joke to share, and a tear to be wiped. I think I am that storyteller. I am an everyman who writes for other everymen.
It's been a lot of toil, hard work, rewards, challenges, learning from mistakes, getting up and moving on, but never giving up. I know I'm getting a little emotional, but this is what I wanted to say.
So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome to another episode of Towards a Better World, my community on Thinkly, where Ayon Banerjee, invite and speak to some of the most inspiring people from all walks of life and all around the world. The soul of this podcast is my belief that we cannot change everything that's wrong in this world by simply ranting about them, but we can probably do that by bringing forth all that's right in this world. The theme of this season is maximizing human potential. And that's what makes today's episode so relevant because we will talk of the role of higher education in crafting successful careers. In recent years, we've all deliberated whether academic excellence and success in life are related. Personally, I hold a neutral stand on this subject, and I can debate from both sides with logical arguments in favor of each. Today's conversation is not about that, nor is it an overarching commentary on the faults of our education system or a generic summary of what leads to success. I am neither qualified for that, nor do I possess enough worldview to attempt that. However, if you also clock around 15 to 20 years in your career so far, you will agree to my view that academic toppers of our generation probably fell behind their more unassuming peers, despite having all the encouragement and self-image that they needed for a head start in life. This is, of course, a broad statement, and it will surely have exceptions and outliers. Also, success is a very relative and a subjective term. The success that I refer to here is professional success, meaning doing well by acceptable standards in the chosen professions that we are in. The common theme that I observed while trying to correlate why academic success didn't always translate into professional success in equal measure was that one big reason that came out was that school has rules, while life is non-linear. It doesn't follow rules. Secondly, of course, we always had this challenge of learning totally irrelevant subjects in academics and that had little or no value in the professions that we chose ahead. And thirdly, of course, during our formative years and during for our generation, we rarely had people with industry expertise to guide us during our academic years. And what used to happen was, if I can paraphrase, Nassim Taleb's rather controversial quote, was that when he said that a business school professor can at best teach you to be another business school professor. So in order to dispel and contest some of these cynicism that I just spoke about around professional education, I thought of inviting someone who spent 28 years in leading global corporate roles and who then chose to become an educator at a leading university, the University of New Haven. Ranjana Maitra is a leading voice in today's education industry and someone who effortlessly brings her corporate expertise to her day job as she transforms not just professional education in South Asia, but also someone who is shaping careers of thousands of young students as they step into real life. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me welcome Ranjana Maitra to Towards a Better World. Welcome, Ranjana Di.
Thank you so much, Anne, for your kind words, and thank you very much for inviting me for this session. And your podcast is very much watched, and your kind comments really made me feel very grateful and very honored. I like your theme, and especially because it aligns with maximizing human potential. And I'm on the journey of helping build and making careers for students, which is very satisfying. I'm very, very excited to be having this chat with you. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Ranjana. I mean, we should be saying thanks to you for making time out of your super busy schedule to do this with us. And today's episode is truly one of a kind, because like I was telling you off screen, off stage, that, while I've had a lot of illustrious corporate leaders as guests on the show, and also quite a few who are like social change makers, but you are the first guest who has had this amazing corporate career, which you left to pursue your calling to be an educator, like I just mentioned. And today you are doing all three. I mean, on one hand, you are a leading educator, you are still very much involved with your corporate world through the industry forums that you are part of. And of course, you are a big, big change maker who's playing a role in curating the next generation of academic talent for the professional world of tomorrow. So, question number one, tell us about your incredible journey, the why behind your journey, and the how of managing it all.
Wow. Ion, okay, let me try to sort of, capsule it in whatever way I can. So, and thank you for your kind words as always, Ion. You're really making me feel very honored and privileged. When I look back at my own journey, I was born and brought up in Rourkela. I don't know how many of you have heard of it. It's a cosmopolitan steel plant city in Odisha, India. And my father was a double engineer who was trained in Germany, and he was a pioneer in setting up the steel plant. And I had a mother who, did masters from Miranda House, Delhi. So I had very progressive parents, and we were only two sisters. So I was fortunate to have been born and raised in a family that was progressive minded and rose above, stereotype limitations. So I had so when I wanted to go to the US and study and do my MBA, there was there was no sort of uh, uh, there was no conflict from our parents' side to say that no, you can't do it because you're a girl. And I'm saying that because when I went in '89, it was not common for girls to go abroad to study. So I had privileged access to global education and pursued a master's degree MBA in the US at the University of New Haven in the cusp of 90s. And I was the only Indian girl in the university at that time. And that didn't faze me at all. I received all the encouragement from my family, and always taken the road less traveled by. I don't know why. I'm not such a person that who comes across as someone who's taking up conflicts, but I've always tried to do things which others don't do. So when it was common for students to stay in the US, I chose to come back to India. And I was hired in New York by the legend who had put India into the software map of the world, Dr. F.C. Kohli, Padma Bhushan awardee, my mentor till he passed away a few years ago. And seeing his vision, I decided to return to India and join TCS in Mumbai, which laid my foundation. And I did a variety of roles across industries, healthcare, insurance, products, marketing. And I really honed my skills out there because I really dirtied my hands and learned, everything. And believe me, I was not an engineer. So it was, and everyone were engineers out there. So it was not easy. So I had to really put in my extra efforts to do that. But I had a strong management and liberal arts backing as well. So it helped me. I later moved to Wipro. Mainly, I did healthcare and life sciences, but that was more at leadership roles and held various global leadership positions, managing P&Ls across continents. And I want to mention that because you're from GE Ion. Very early in my career at Wipro, I was incidentally made the COO and asked to turn around a healthcare company acquired from GE. And exactly 2 quarters, I turned it from red to black, which really brought me to the forefront and made me, named me as a turnaround specialist. So because you're from GE, I thought I'll mention that. So it was great learning all along the way, all along my 28 years of career. And I owe a lot to my strong foundation to TCS, of course. My journey in Wipro was more at leadership levels, as I mentioned, and I owe my thanks to a lot of leaders. I can just mention a few names, but there are a lot whom I can't mention out here. It will be too long a list. So, late Dr. F.C. Kohli, Mr. S. Ramadurai, who was the CEO and MD and on the Tata board. I'm still doing so much of work with him. Late Mr. Jayant Pendharkar, Mr. N. Chandrasekharan, so many others in TCS and in Wipro. I have greatest respect for Mr. Azim Premji, from whom I learned personally quite a lot. Mr. T.K. Kurian, who was the CEO of Wipro and now runs the Premji Invest and is still my mentor, is still my go-to person. Of course, Rishabh Premji and so many others. After almost 28 years in two large corporates and having achieved quite a bit, there comes a time, Ion, when you want to do something different. And that was my calling. I realized I didn't want to do in corporate, going up that extra position, getting on more responsibility. Something was calling. I wanted to do something different. And that my quest for that elusive something coincided with my mother being unwell. And I just took a sabbatical. And there were so many corporates wanting me to do that same job at a higher level, but I didn't want to do that. And unexpectedly, within a few months of my taking the sabbatical, my president emeritus, Dr. Stephen Kaplan, called me and he said, I want you to take on this role. And I thought, it was a blank screen for me because I knew nothing about higher education. And I said, let me give it a try because always I like to take up challenges. I've never explored this sector. And I took it up. And here I am, almost 6 years down the line with a full-fledged career, doing, working for University of New Haven, working for them. And for me, though it may sound cliched, whatever I do it with passion and give it my best, more than 100%, and show up every day and with the same enthusiasm, Ion. I don't know if I've managed to sort of capsule it.
Of course you did. And what an incredible journey, Ranjana. I mean, it's so impressive and so many common threads that you spoke of G Healthcare, because I remember G Healthcare and Wipro had a joint venture in India, if you remember. So and that ran for quite a long time. And in fact, Jack Welch, when he was in
Yeah,
India, at that time, you might remember that. So and yeah, and some of the names you mentioned, and you mentioned Mr. Chandrasekhar and others, I mean, who are like the big names today. Yeah, and I just saw a picture of yours with him in at an event recently. So it's great that you are
thank you.
still in touch with your core companies where you kind of learned your roots, and that's very rare because people generally move on in their careers. But this is something I noticed in your career, that you've kind of kept your network alive, and you are still your words of gratitude that reflect, and there's a lot to learn from that for younger managers, that no matter how high you go, you should always remember where you learned your first ropes. So great. What an amazing run, Manjunati. So now, given that like we said, you and I both probably share this common passion for maximizing human potential, and which is the theme of today's episode, let me start by getting your views on the contemporary education system. I mean, the basic education system and also the professional education system that's available for the youngsters. And how has it evolved in the past 20, 25 years or so? I mean, let's say when you did your MBA, from that time till now, I mean, what has changed? Also, we often hear this gap between academics and its applicability in real life careers, and like something what I was mentioning in my opening introduction. So, why don't you share with us your views on today's education system, the competitiveness that it embodies, and whether it's indeed the money's worth? Because sometimes, higher education can cost a bomb. And lastly, is there something that we can do better to make formal education more effective as a tool in corporate careers?
Thanks, Ayon. This is a topic close to my heart, and it's a very what to say. It's a very debatable topic, and it can take up a lot of time. But I'll try to make it short and as make people understand what I'm trying to talk about it. But having said that, it's a one of the main reasons. I'll start from the beginning. One of the main reasons I went to the US to study because I wanted a different perspective and not an education which was just rote based knowledge. And if you remember, Ion, at that time, though I'm much older to you, it was all about, bookish knowledge, rote based knowledge. And I was very tired of that. I wanted to explore something else. And US was the best destination because it was known for experiential learning, and that's why I chose University of New Haven. I yearned for practical knowledge. I had gone straight from college to do my MBA and had no real life experience. That was another, what to say, a lacuna on my part, if I must say. But I took it as an opportunity and made it into something, an advantage for me. Even so many decades back, I struggled in the beginning, as in my class. I had people like folks from as the VP of Coca-Cola or the VP of GE. As you know, GE had its headquarters in Connecticut, in Stanford, I think in Stanford, if I remember correctly. So we had a lot of people from GE, doing their MBAs, they used to bring out real life experiences in the classroom, which we as international students could not, fathom or could not relate to. I said, this is not going to happen, then what am I learning if I can't understand what they're talking about in the class? So, not want to be faced by this, I started learning from them. I used to ask them during the breaks, what did they mean by that? What was the, I was very inquisitive and I was friendly. So they used to like, this is this Indian girl coming up to us and asking us, and they were very friendly. So they used to talk about it. We started questioning and doing more participation as I was hungry for knowledge. Those real time examples were the real clinchers. For me, that was actual learning and not my almost 4.0 GPA. That was not what I was intending to do. Even back then, we used to have many industry leaders who used to come in and speak to us, and many of our faculty were from the industry. So the information that we gleaned from there really helped me in my career later on. So they were the real examples. So what is happening, whether it is happening in the industry flow, whether it's happening in Wall Street, whether it's happening, as an HR conflict resolution. So you get the entire gamut of experience while doing your MBA. I remember so many of those incidents. So, I mean, an example so clearly, even today, which I used during my profession work in TCS and Wipro. I cannot say that, maybe later on in life, maybe not at the very beginning, I didn't get to use it, but I used those very well. I worked under one of the brightest professors in marketing as his research assistant, and that also helped me a lot. I remember one incident where, we had to get one industry leaders as part of a project to our class. It's not easy to get an industry leader. You are an international student. From where will you get an industry leader? Not to be outdone, because I was highly competitive. I got one of my friend's girlfriend who was leading an advertising agency. I still remember her name, Claire Zob. And she came in and she addressed the class, and I was a winner all through, and I got the highest marks in my project. I was just telling this example not to say that what I did, but how can you sort of, make opportunities into advantages? If you go out and be resourceful, be agile, you can conquer the world. That's all I'm trying to tell, even if students are seeing that. um, First time I learned of open book exams, or being allowed to take short, those small white cards to the exam rooms. And I think that's very good. Why do you have to do rote learning when some of it you can, sort of, write in a piece of paper and take it, the formulas or whatever, and then apply it, because it's all about application of ideas. That's what I learned in the US, which really, really helped me. I would say, you asked me about whether a degree from the US or abroad helps or not. I would say a degree from a good college in the US is worth every dollar you spend. And I'm a living example of it, who showed that you don't also have to stay back in the US to earn the dollars, and the ROI is totally worth it. In fact, my US education helped me tremendously later on when I was managing multi-locational centers in different parts of the globe, say 12 centers across 4 continents with 4,000 people. It was not easy. How I will deal with people in, say, Philippines was very different from how I deal with people in Atlanta, in Bucharest, or in Mexico, or in India. So if I had had the global exposure, maybe I would have faltered, or maybe I would have had to take a cultural course to be able to understand. But the real life experience really helped me. Today, if you see, education has moved far ahead today. And though I'm not a real expert to speak on Indian education system too much, but when I see the growth in my university's curriculum, and you're a part of it too now, Ayon, and how education is imparted, is all about experiential learning. And I think India with its NEP is going that way too. Classroom teaching is a very small part of it. So in our university, class sizes are 19:1, where so that the teachers know the students by name. They not like you have 50 people in the room, you don't know what someone is doing at the end of the room. We have the Bargami Center of Excellence, which is modeled on the MIT model. So our career development center is ranked number 15 by Princeton, globally in the US. And we get about 200 companies who come for career fairs, which was not there. You asked me what is different. It was not there when I was studying in the US. We didn't have that. So these are the different steps which universities have taken to help students to ensure that, once they step out from college, that they have a better, knowledge, they're better well equipped to go out to the real world, to the corporate, right from writing resumes, mock interviews. We help them all right from day one. If I come to about India, if I see that that the career to campus, uh, is a big gap out here. When the students come to the corporates, they are still not ready as yet. Even from CII, we are trying to help that to have a complete model career to campus. That how can we help a college to campus, or we call it career to campus, we can help students to bridge that gap, because as you said that they're not ready many times, or they've had the bookish knowledge, but how do they do that? I'll tell you a simple thing like how to, even great people, they're not able to do that. You meet, have an elevator pitch, they're not able to do that, even though they might have a very good standing in their university, or they're rank holders. I see them very, very baffled when they come into a corporate world. And I've seen that both in two large organizations, TCS and Wipro. Now it's much better. Companies are also having a very robust program to ensure that students are able to do that. So, in our university, under the leadership of President Jens Fredrickson, who's very committed to student success, we have partnerships with industry leaders, and have also built quite a lot of partnerships with a few large conglomerates in India as well. A team, you'll be glad to know, a team from University of New Haven came to India to visit Cummins College of Engineering for Women. It's a completely women's college, and we have a MOU with them. And together they're building some capstone project for waste disposable system for India. So like that, we're building also on partnerships and stuff like that to ensure that students and the corporates, the academia come together, and the students in India can also understand how education is imparted in the US. And I don't know, there's a lot more I can say, but I think at this point I will just stop there. And I say that the students need to understand that when they come to the corporate, it's actually where rubber hits the road. And sometimes they're not ready for that, Ion. And I think we need to bridge that gap. Thank you.
So well said, Ranadi. And I think, there are a lot of things to unpack from your answer. I'll start from my favorite place, which you said, that Connecticut and Stanford, where I am a graduate of GE's leadership program, which was the number one leadership program for senior managers in the world. 2-year program from Connecticut, the same place, the same GE you mentioned. And I know that there are several, at least, the GE of the past, where we used to have this Crotonville campus near New York. So GE leaders were really committed to to go and contribute to academia, and I know, and especially Jack Welch was a big supporter of learning, and that's the culture that was in GE. And I was so happy to hear that GE leaders used to go to your campus as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And the second part which you mentioned, Ranjadi, which was also very important, was the experiential learning, which you mentioned, because I know that, and I am an engineer, and I have no shame in confessing that despite being a university topper, I actually had no experiential learning in my engineering. So the day I came out of engineering with a gold medal and a degree, I frankly speaking, I couldn't even fix a fuse in my house. Okay, so we got married at that time. My wife used to make fun of me. She used to say that you should surrender your engineering degree because I do all this stuff, and you can't even fix a broken tube light or whatever it is. So I think this whole applicability thing which you mentioned in the US is really good. I know that. And the second big thing, I think, probably, and you will probably endorse it, is the alum network which you get
Yeah.
in good universities like this, because I'm sure your peers are now leaders all over the world in all kinds of industries. So that will definitely help. And uh, and the other point I really liked was, which you mentioned, that the exposure you got from the international education helped you in your day job at TCS and Wipro, where you had different ways to deal with people in Philippines versus people in US or India, etc. So that's again a big advantage of international education, I think. And I think, we had sent our daughter to study in the UK, and I think that was one of the good points. Regardless of the education part of it, at least you get more confident when you talk to different cultures and people, etc. I think that's all that. There's a lot of that in your answer, and we'll talk more about the University of New Haven. And so, as you're aware, and you just mentioned it in your answer, and this is for the viewers. So I don't know, for some reason, and I'm very humbled and honored about that I have been recently invited to serve on the advisory board of this esteemed University of New Haven, on the Pompey College of Business, which is ranked among the top 5% business schools in the world. And our guest today, she was gracious enough, when she was asked, she was gracious enough to give a vote of confidence for me. So thank you again for that, Ranjana. So what I would like to say is that, not because I am speaking with you here, but when I was inducted in the advisory board, and I was very impressed when they asked me to go through the curriculum, just because I will be a board member. So I went through the curriculum on a weekend, and unlike a more mere academic curriculum that most universities have, including some of the tier 1 management schools in India, because we hire people from people from these colleges often, so we kind of know their kind of reach, what the industry connect of most management schools. But here, with the Pompey College of Business and University of New Haven, I was impressed because the faculty and the course material were totally in sync with the contemporary business world. I mean, and I could see the value that they were bringing to the students, because if I was a student in that university and I was getting this exposure, I would be definitely a lot market ready. So why don't you share with our viewers, and you shared some of it in your previous answer, but if you could share some of the core values that University of New Haven is built around, and the value and the USPs that it brings to the students and to the community.
Hey, thanks, Ayon. And first of all, once again, hearty congratulations on being on the advisory board on the Pompey College of Business. And your insights will be very valued. And I'm a very proud alum of the Pompey College of Business, which is highly acclaimed. And when I go for alumni, as you said, we have a 68,000 strong alumni network globally. And that, of course, helps a lot. And when we have this alumni, US consulate has these alumni days, and I'm one of the ones who always tries to attend them. And people are very surprised. Many of the parents, I've been able to convince so many parents, because they're so surprised that someone who came back and has worked in other companies and is now working for the university. So it's a full circle. So, University of New Haven is a 105-year-old institute, and we started on the Yale campus in New Haven, Ion, and then we moved to our own campus. So, while many other universities lost their, identity, UNH has stood tall all these years. We call it our students' first philosophy. So, UNH is a student-centered comprehensive university with the emphasis on excellence in liberal arts and professional education. We have 5 different colleges which are there, undergrad and grad. We have about 10,000 students. We are a private university. And our mission is to prepare our students to lead purposeful and fulfilling lives in a global society by providing very high-end education through experiential, collaborative, and discovery-based learning. And I am a living proof of that. And the leadership, led by the board, the board head is Mike Ambrose. He was a leading industry expert, a leading industry voice. He's very well known. He was in Sikorsky, very senior in that. And of course, Jens Fredrickson. And our board is composed of very, very talented people. They recognize that these are complicated times in higher education. And our new president, Jens Fredrickson, is doing everything possible to ensure that University of New Haven stands at the forefront of that, and nothing happens to it, despite all the turmoil that is going on in higher education today. We profoundly are committed to deliver our mission, and our mission is to prepare students to lead purposeful and meaningful lives. want to take a quote out of Jens Fredriksen's, note that he says to students that how to identify the right institution is often asked to our president. And he says we take extremely seriously the notion of a return on investment, which is very important because when you are going to, pay so much, you are interested to know what is the return on the investment. We know students are making a sizable commitment both financially and time, and we understand the urgency importance of what these we can do. College is an opportunity to really take advantage of your dreams. You want to pick an institution that understands what that means, and that is not just about A's and B's in the classroom. That's important, but it is everything else. It is finding your people, it is taking advantage of all the experiential learning, its opportunities, and internships. Go to things you might not have thought would interest you, and your mind will be blown. You will find here every single person stands behind you. We are here because we want to see you succeed. Not everything about college is going to be easy. There are going to be a couple of classes when you may ask, when am I going to use this? Still, put your best foot forward and know there's an extended family here at the university that is on your side and stands behind you every possible way. We live in an increasingly global world. The world is getting smaller, but the challenges seem to be getting bigger. We need problem solvers. We need can doers who are ready to create a brighter future. And that will be all of you. What an incredible opportunity to shape the environment in which you live. And that begins here. Unquote. If you see, I passed out decades back, but the bond and the passion that I have for University of New Haven is as strong as ever. And take pride in saying I'm an alum and I'm now giving back to the university and working to help students to make better career choices. Relationships matter a lot, and showing up every day, while it was during COVID or otherwise, makes a huge difference in what passion brings you to your work. Nothing gives me greater pleasure than when I see my students who I've helped, whether it's in India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, etc., or they send me a note, or they send me pictures, or when I meet them on campus and they come running to me and they blossomed into such wonderful human beings. That is my gift. That is what I work for every day, to see the smile on their faces, to see that the lives to transform lives. I think that is what makes me get up every day and show up every day. Ayon, and you had asked me this question, and that is what really makes me show up each and every day. Had the potential, they just needed the nurturing. And I was just the catalyst, maybe in that, maybe just added some, water and just, planted some, seeds to that, what they already had in them. So I know I'm getting a little emotional, but this is what I wanted to say. And I don't know
Well,
whether it made sense
that's
or not.
that's so beautifully put, and I think it's very rare. First of all, I must compliment you that it's very rare that we don't have too many people like this in the corporate world who have this strong passion towards giving back, and giving back in the way that you said, that it's easy to sit and pass a commentary on that the new generation is like this or like that, or the education system is not up to the mark. They are not, there is not enough applicability, etc. The students who come out and join the workforce are not ready, etc. And it's a completely different thing to do what you just mentioned, spoken like an educator, because I have an educator at home, and I hear some variant of the same pitch that you gave towards the end of it. That I often ask her, my wife, she is a principal in an international school, and I tell her, you are not paid that well. Why do you have to break your head for 15, 16 hours every day? She said, it's not our money, dude. I mean, she said that, this is my passion. Every time a student comes running to me and says that after, she or he has passed out, says that this is the satisfaction I get. And Ranjana, the way you narrated it, I think, I envy you that you get that satisfaction from all these young students, whom you are nurturing and bringing out to the professional world. So I'm sure they're lucky to be having your tutelage.
Thank you so much,
So
Anne, for your kind words.
So now, I've now known you for what, about 4 years now, around 4 years. And, whenever I see you in action, what inspires me is the sheer energy and passion that you bring to your work. And people, the viewers can obviously see that. So before I get into the question, this is for the viewers who have joined in and tuned in. So after this, we will have a Q&A from the audience. So all you need to do is go to the Thinkly app, into this community where you have the link, and you just need to type your questions. I'll be reading out the questions, and Ranjana will be taking your questions and answering them. So now, yes, coming back to this question about your passion for your work. So you obviously have a very busy day job, and I know that, and you also travel quite a bit. So now, yet you always seem to find time to be on all these industry platforms. I have seen you like cross everywhere from CII to FICCI to everywhere else. So, and you are also on the national board for some of the leading industry bodies, and you are also a big advocate for women in STEM, etc. So, I'm sure that all this that you do adds up and contributes hugely to the branding that you have done for the University of New Haven in this region, in APAC, and the visibility that you bring to it with your efforts. And frankly, I'm not saying because I am talking to you, but I have really not seen too many educators who make this extra effort to, they don't do so much that you do beyond the day job. So why don't you share with us how you look at the role of a culture shaper and a change maker through your job that you are doing, and what drives you and gets you out of bed every morning?
Wow, you're generous as always. I haven't thought of it like that, but let me try and talk about it. See, having worked in corporate for 28 years, you cannot take out corporate from yourself, and a few things become part of your DNA: resilience, commitment, discipline, never say die attitude. So those things are given, so they are a part of your DNA. It's lucky that having done most people don't have those things, that they've done a corporate job and they've changed their career completely to being an educator, an influencer. So I had a mix of both, so that has also helped me. I've been lucky enough to have had a mix of both. So I have a motto that whatever I do, I give it my 150%. If I'm not happy doing something, then I slowly wean away from it, because in the end you have to be happy doing what you're doing. And if I'm not happy doing something, then I know in my mind that I'm not happy. This is not for me. I'll still give it a shot. It's not that today I'll say I'm not happy doing something, but keep trying to think of ways of how to make it more meaningful and be better at it. But in the end, if it still doesn't work out, I will wean away from it. I believe you have one life and you should pursue things which brings you joy. Sounds cliched, but in corporate it was very structured. And as you know, if you're working with global teams, you hardly have any time, Ayon, as you know. You're working like different shifts. You're working, Middle East shifts. You're working Southeast Asia shifts. You're working US shifts. You're working UK shifts. So, it's like you don't have time to do other things, because you're always running on a treadmill which never stops. But here, I think I had more time and had more freedom to also pursue other things. And I'm very lucky that my university has been very supportive right from day one. And I really thank them for that, to have given me that, that liberty to pursue other things. And it was just not for the branding of the university, but to do things which I wanted to do, whether it's women in STEM, whether it's being with, with CII, whether it's doing other projects. I'm a part of Fortis, which is STCS's organization, completely, it's a valid organization. It's run by Mr. S. Ramdurai. He's the president of it. We do a lot of social activities together. And in my last role, uh, I had 4,000 people reporting into me across 12 centers. When I started this role, I was a one member team, like an entrepreneur. So you need to be also agile, and in your mind, you need to be able to, shift. and be as as flexible as possible. If you cannot do that, you will not be happy wherever you are. If you keep comparing yourself, oh, I had this there, but here I don't have that, and many people always live in the past. No, you have to move ahead and be happy in what you are doing. I'm very happy in what I'm doing. That was a part of my life which I was very happy doing, and this is a part of my life also which I'm very happy doing. And I'm also happy doing other things, whether it's CII, whether it's women in STEM. I love to promote women in STEM because I think women need that extra push. And I have done that to so many people. Even in Wipro, in my last job in my division, I had 65% women in my division compared to, I think that time it was 35 to 37%, which was the company's average. So I've done that. So, as I said, I was the co-chair for CII IWN, chair for Maharashtra, and I'm a member for British Business Group for the last 20 years, though I'm not very active in it. Unfortunately, I want to do more in that. I also believe a lot in relationship and networking. And people think networking is all about getting something out of it. But for me, relationship and networking is all about giving back something. I always, when I meet a person, I think, what can I do for that person, not what I can take from that person. And I think that is something which is intrinsic to me, Ayan, and it has worked wonders because I never think of someone as what can I get from that person. I always think, hey, what can I do? And sometimes I love to sort of, make people make people meet with each other. If I meet a person, I will think, if I'll try to make that person meet someone else. I've done it at very senior levels also. Oh, you need to meet this person. That person has similar interests. You would love to meet that person. And that is how your network grows. And you sort of have that authenticity that tomorrow when you pick up the phone and ask for something, it may not be a favor. Most of the time, I ask for things from other people and nobody will say no. At least they will try and do it for you. And I think just the way I operate, I don't know how others would sort of look at it. They might think that that's not how networking works. And my president, Jens Fredrickson, has come twice to India and is a strong advocate of industry academia partnerships. And we are doing a lot of that as well in India, faculty exchange. And for me, showing up every day is very important with the same passion and enthusiasm, regardless of how the previous day has been. And I think, Ayon, you also do the same thing. So during COVID, I did about 550 webinars with students that yielded huge results when the pandemic was over. Believe me, the pandemic was a blur. If you ask me, how did the pandemic go? I have no recollection because I was so busy in work. So sometimes you make the most out of, the opportunities that come. They say, no, when you get lemons, make lemonade. So I'll just leave it at that.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I want to especially, take a pause and talk about your philosophy of networking that you mentioned. And you won't believe it. It sounded, word to word. If you ask me to write about my philosophy of networking, it's absolutely the same. Give first, don't go in with an agenda. Uh, be a connector, like you said. Often, there is people always approach networking that do this because you want to get that.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. Because networking, I've seen often, are the best network and the best professional and personal relationships that I have built over the years have always started on a blank. Like, somebody wanted to meet somebody else whom I knew, and I connected both of them. They became friends. Then went somewhere else, and somebody needed me for something. I went there without any agenda. And some of the dots add up in a very non-linear way down the road. And I have reaped enormous benefits of this philosophy from this philosophy of networking. And I totally see that when somebody as senior as you endorses that, I feel relieved that I am right, I'm not doing something wrong. So thanks for
No,
the
totally
wise words.
works, Ayan. I'm so glad you said that. It totally works. People see through that. If you're just going after networking in a very clinical way, people see through that. People are not fools,
Absolutely,
they see through that. So,
absolutely, I totally agree. So now, one question I wanted to ask, before we kind of wrap it up, was on leadership. As someone who's held, and like we discussed in your earlier answers, that you've held global general management roles, and at Wipro, for the viewers, Ranjana Maitra was the global head for their life sciences business in Wipro, and roles of this stature that you've held in the corporate world, and now you are in an industry that's almost a 180 degree on the other side of the spectrum. So if I may ask you, on your leadership toolkit, that what are some of the leadership essentials that you still held on to from your corporate life that are still handy for you in your current job, and what are some of the leadership 101 or rules that you've had to discard and tweak to adjust to your new role? And also, because you said that you are a big advocate of women in STEM, etc., so can you also share some advice that you might have for women leaders, especially young women leaders who aspire to leave a mark like what you have? Some do's and don'ts, maybe.
Thank you. You're very generous, and as always, since the time I've met you, and very candid. I spoke about some of it, but I'll speak of a little more. I believe your core remains the same of the true values you're governed by, and that never changes, wherever you are, whatever role you are doing. So if I again look back at my journey of 30 years across two corporates, and recently my last more than 30 years, with my almost 6 years at University of New Haven, it's been a lot of toil, hard work, rewards, challenges, learning from mistakes, getting up and moving on, but never giving up. I've never felt that I was lacking because I was a woman, because, that's why you talked about women. So I brought up women. Usually I don't like to do that, but I'm very proud to be a woman, and I've never tried to be a man, as I know I bring different skill sets to the table. I've always played on my strengths, and I know my strengths very well. It took me a while to understand, and I'm giving this, pointer because a lot of people don't understand what their strengths are. They always try to think that what their areas of improvement are, or they don't understand what their strengths are. It took me a while to understand that client management and relationship building was a natural skill set of mine right from the beginning. And believe me, this I learned in TCS in within 2 years, when my boss, late Mr. Jayant Pendharkar, pointed it out. And I had no clue that time that that was my strength. And he told me in my appraisal meeting, this is your biggest strength. I still remember he gave me 10 on 10 on that. And I said, what is this? I couldn't understand. Why have you given me lower in the others, and why have you given me 10 on 10 on this? And he said, this is your biggest strength. You should, completely utilize that. And I still, at that point, I was very young. I didn't sort of understand it very well. And later on, I realized where he was coming from. And my and then I realized with clients, I still maintain relationships with clients which are 30 years old, whether they're in government, they're Fortune 500 companies, they're a Pfizer, there are, Boston Scientific, they're, Medtronic. I still am in touch with them. My still clients love me because my motto was in leadership: undercommit and over deliver. Say the bad news first. Trust is the most important thing. I have lived by that mantra all my life, and that has helped me like anything. Do not be afraid to, say the bad news first, and they will stand by you. They can make out if you're bluffing them, because they are also responsible. So if you tell them the bad news first and say, okay, hey, we goofed up, or there's been a problem in delivery, give me some time. This is the timeline. I'm going to fix it. This is, needs to be done. They are going to stand 100%, by you. So, as I was mentioning, I forged maybe 30 years back some relationships which are still intact. Today I can, name maybe, at 20 names, of top people whom I know, which are 25, 30 years old, whether it's in government, multinationals in India, Fortune 500 companies. In my 360 degree appraisal, which you must be aware of, I think in Wipro, it came from GE. I think, they picked it up from GE. I always receive the highest scores from my clients, not from my bosses, not from my peers, not from my, from my
Wow.
subordinates. And understanding culture played a very major role in managing diverse global teams, which I talked about it. And setbacks and challenges which I faced differed from the roles one plays. As you grow up the ladder, challenges increase. The kind of challenges I faced while integrating a newly acquired company from GE at Wipro as the CEO was very different. say from, when talent was not at par, customers were not satisfied, or processes were different. It's very different when you're trying to scale the business and turn it, and increase it tenfold, or you're trying to build a business from scratch. So those are those different leadership styles that you have to use. So as the roles develop, new dimensions come out. Working now at the University of New Haven has been very refreshing, and I had to let go and had to also unlearn quite a bit. And I think that's something that many of us don't do in the new role, that unlearning is equally important as learning. What will work at corporate will not work in the higher education. And it took me some time because I was so corporatized, sorry for my, not being able to pronounce the word in a single word. But sometimes I had to let go and unlearn, and say that higher education is not corporate, it's different. So you have to let go at times, and learn different things. It's different industries have different ways of doing it. So you have to be adapt and change. I think that's very important. When you start as a single member team, do not feel that it's something else. Yes, 4,000 people versus one, 4,000 is to one, but that didn't, give me any sort of setback. It didn't make me feel any lower. It didn't give me any complexes. It is what you are. It's your core strength that makes you what you are. It's not your designation. It's not the number of people who work for you. It's what you bring to the table that people are looking for. So you come with zero baggage. So, and in my opinion, for your last part of the question, Ayon, it's very important that women are at a huge disadvantage in the STEM world. So it's for us to ensure that I'm a great advocate of women in STEM, and I've done so for the University of New Haven and also through CII. We did a project, as I mentioned, with Cummins College of Women. At CII also, we are doing something called Spark, and University of New Haven under, with the President Jens Frederickson, we completely backed it up. So, Women in STEM is a very, very, what to say, pet project of mine. I'll just end with one thing, that as the old adage goes, if you want to plan for a year, plant rice. If you want to plan for 20 years, plant trees. If you want to plan for 100 years, plant education. This is true for girl education, and I'm a firm believer for this. And for women, I would like to just leave with a few lines that acknowledge who you are, learn from your mistakes, be your own hero, put your heart in whatever you do, and make a little effort to help others. And lastly, network, network, and network, and never give up. Thank you, Ayon.
Superb. I'm going to let my ask my daughter to listen to this last part of yours. Definitely. I mean, that's exactly what we need. The role models like you, and also the slogan-free wisdom which is needed. These days we have a lot of slogans and acronyms, but people don't actually walk the talk. There's a lot of talk. There's no walking. People have symbols and days to celebrate this and that, but in real life, people don't actually practice it. And in corporate world, this hypocrisy is very high. People have all kinds of slogans, but they will say, and DEI is a big thing these days, right? So people talk a lot about DEI because it fetches them good social media eyeballs, but
Mhm.
in real life, when it comes to practice it, they don't do it in many corporates. And so I think, in the soul, people need to do that, and have that inclusion mindset. And I think, I have worked with some incredible women colleagues, and I think, women bring an entirely different and a very valuable perspective to the workplace, and which needs to be acknowledged and understood in a very transparent way, not just to tick a box, but it needs to be understood and acknowledged. And incidentally, you won't believe it. My last season of this podcast was celebrating women leaders. So we got women leaders from all walks of life, different kinds. Someone is a social reformer, someone is a big corporate honcho, someone is a banker. So we wanted to showcase the strides that women are making in today's world, without making it a cliche that we want to just celebrate a women's day. No, not that. Just show the real women who are making a change. So great. Thank you so much, Ranjani. So before we move to the audience questions, and I think the audience, I was just peeping in. So there are people who have started saying questions and highs and etc. Anything, any final remarks or questions or comments, Ranjani, before we move to that?
Thank you, Ayan, very much. Actually, I have one question for you, Ayan, and if you don't mind answering this, you have a very high pressured corporate job in GE, and then you write great novels. I really admire your writing skills. You're a prolific writer, and your take on incidents, on people, has a very distinct style. How do you manage to do all these together and find the time and balance it so beautifully? So I need to know your secret sauce, Ayan. So please tell us
No.
about it.
Now, really, I don't know how to blush, but your question makes me very embarrassed, and I'm, very, very frankly speaking, for disclaimer, I'm a very ordinary person, Ranjadi, who I grew up in a very middle class Indian home in small town India. Never went to any tier one educational institution like IITs or IIMs, though I would have loved to have, but I didn't. And while I have during the 25 plus years in my career got opportunities to work with several bright men and women from all around the world who have these formidable resumes and educational backgrounds, but I am personally no match for them. But having said that, I have but kind of lived a life of sorts. I've earned a few scars along the way in my own non-linear journey this far. Like millions of regular folks out there. The everyman in the subway you see, the business traveler at the boarding gate of an airport, the salesperson waiting at an office reception, the faceless participant in those endless conference calls that we are part of, that middle aged professional who is holding on to a pride that is fast nearing its expiry date. Each one of us has a story to tell, a lesson to teach, a joke to share, and a tear to be wiped. If only, we could snare it on print and, a story of how we, sowed our wild oats and tried to build a life around it. So I think I am that storyteller. I am an everyman who writes for other everymen. Because unlike in the West, uh, we Indians are not very good at documenting our professional journeys or celebrating our heroes. It's probably a conservativeness born out of our culture, which, and that's what sees so many, and you mentioned so many illustrious Indian leaders, but we see so many of these Indian leaders quietly walk into the sunset without even penning an autobiography. And their inspiring stories are never told. They go untold, unheard, unread. And it's astonishing. You've worked in different global companies and teams. So if you go to any organization and a global team today, you would see that there will be multiple Indian professionals at different layers of any organization. And yet, isn't it surprising that how incredibly invisible we Indians are? And we are self-consciously, we are always avoiding attention, doing our jobs meticulously, and then vanishing thereafter. If we even have an opinion on something, we rarely bring it up because we don't like confrontation or ridicule. And we follow rules, we avoid breaking things, and we just do our job and go home. I somehow, didn't want this because I grew up reading about Western leaders. I thought, what happens to a youngster like me who is born in small town India tomorrow, and if he works in a goes to work for a multinational company and feels out of place because he doesn't have a rule book to follow or somebody's playbook. So I thought I could be that because there comes a day in everyone's life where eventually you make peace with your ordinariness, right? And you recalibrate those audacious dreams that you would have when you were 13 years old or something. And when that day came in my life some years back, I chose to give this relevance thing a fight, by dusting out all my hats. I agree, it will not fetch me a Booker or a Nobel or an Olympic medal in this lifetime, but I think I could still try to play a role in the life of someone who might get there. At least that will help me because when I'll see that 13-year-old me on the other side of the finish line, I can shake hands with him and say that I tried, dude. So I think that's the why of why I do all these things, Anjali. So yeah, so I think we should all like you said, you stretched yourself out of your corporate life and you brought back yourself to a calling. So I try to do in my humble ways whatever I can to do these small things. So thanks.
Amazing.
Let me read out some of the comments and questions. Lavanya is asking you, saying hi. Lavanya is asking you. I think you answered it partly, but you can take a stab at it. How important is global education in today's world?
Hi Lavanya. I think I answered that question before. I think global education is extremely important in today's world. So you get a completely different perspective, and which you would not get if you can. You can go for it. Yeah, I'm not saying that India education is system is bad, but if you can afford a global education system, just go for it. It gives you a completely different perspective. You get to meet other people from other countries, like, in University of New Haven, there's 74 countries, which are represented. You get to, learn things which you haven't learned before. And, I think it's all about that experiential learning experience that you get, and collaborative learning, which you don't get it anywhere else. Believe me, I wouldn't be what I am today if I hadn't done my MBA at University of New Haven. And I'm very proud to say that. So go for it. Do not, if you can, please go for it.
Wonderful. So Meera is asking, hi, ma'am. What are some exciting developments in Southeast Asia education space?
Southeast Asia, lately, I think I can say from a US perspective that people are, very keen to go abroad for studies. Studies. It could be US, it could be other countries as well. So I'm seeing a lot of interest from Bangladesh, from Nepal, from Vietnam, Thailand. These are the countries which are really, really keen to go abroad for studies. So these are the countries that are high. Bangladesh was at 13th earlier. They have jumped up 5 places to come to ninth, as per the Open Doors report, as as one of the top destinations for the US. Vietnam also has jumped up pretty high in the list.
Awesome. So Anand Sharma is asking, can you share some of the most rewarding moments from your corporate leadership roles?
There are too many to say. I think everything, it depends on what you call rewarding. I think it's not just about winning multi-million dollar deals. I think that's okay. There's an energy to it. There's a high. I think Ayan also understands that you do win those deals, and for some time the euphoria stays. But I think it's about the teamwork, about building. When you see, for me, my team, when I build a team, when I see that the team has done very well, I think that was one rewarding moment. I was talking about the turnaround of a company when I could integrate it with, mainstream Wipro. When you have acquired a company and they're completely going in a different direction, and you have been able to, make the processes, the SOPs, and integrate them in the mainstream company in Wipro, that is a very rewarding experience. Or saying TCS, I can say about going and pitching to a government for us. We had some products, or like EX, and we were heavy into products. We used to make products which were way ahead of his time. Project management software, accounting softwares. So if you have done that, and it was that, like the chief secretary or someone who came when you were young, and they came and thumped your back and said, hey, that was great, and we are going to buy 30 pieces of that. So those were the moments. I'm not talking about when you've gone up the ladder and you've made a mark. That comes along with it. But I'm saying those small moments of happiness which you get in your journey, I think, are the most memorable ones that remain
Cool.
with you.
I totally endorse this. Those early wins in the career, they
Yeah.
are the most rewarding ones which you remember in the later part of your life. Anupam, is saying that so great to hear such a commitment for making people's life better by emphasizing education, which can bring both education and industrial skills. So this is more a comment. So Sanya Agarwal is saying, do you think authentic networking is the best way to scale up professionally?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. See, people can see through it what is authentic and what is not. See, you can go to 100 functions and you can exchange business cards and you can write a note, but unless you connect with the person, we are all human beings, right? We need to connect with each other. You have to
Sure.
form some sort of connection. So when you're meeting someone, see that person's card, see something, and try to make a connection with that person. It could be anything. It could be, I mean, that someone else in the organization. Don't try to throw names. That doesn't work. But it's something else that that you are in the same business, or if it's, I think you are in the same line, some common connection, or say, can we have a chat about this thing? Don't bring business opportunities right at the beginning. I find that many people doing that, and that is not authentic networking at all. I built a strong network, but it takes time. It really takes time to build it and nurture it. You have to nurture the network also. Remember, it's like a plant. It's like a sapling which has to grow. It has to grow. So that's important.
Perfect. I think then the next question I'll is from Aniket. Aniket is asking you, ma'am, what role do you see AI playing in the future of education?
I think, you cannot do away with AI, but AI will play a major role in education in every sphere. Okay. But at the same time, make AI your friend. Don't make AI your enemies. People are very, they either make it like it's going to be this monster which is going to take away jobs, going to make away, but make it your friend. Today, whether it's a chat GPT or whether it's anything else, you can use it to make it your friend. You don't have to copy from there, but you can learn so much. There's so many AI learning tools. Someone approached me the other day that for women, what are the AI learning tools that can help them in their careers? That's a very good subject. I'm doing some research on that, and I'm going to do a talk on that. And if someone is interested, they can, DM me separately, or you can come to my LinkedIn, and I'll let you know when I'm doing that. It's a very good subject, that how can the women learn from different tools for AI, and how they can better their career. So I think don't shy away from AI, embrace it and make the most of it. And that's all I can say about AI.
Wonderful. So the next question from Anjali Singh is similar. I mean, it's she's asking, I have a question. How can women in STEM fields break barriers and create more opportunities for themselves and for others?
So women in STEM, I think you have to make, okay, let me put it this way. Women in STEM, you've already done the first part. You must be doing something in STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, math. So you're already good at it. You have done something in STEM. So, but you have to make that next move. You are better than the rest. So you have to prove yourself. You have to be more outgoing. You have to, I don't know at what stage of your career you are in. I can guide you better if you can let me know that what exactly help that you need, or what advice you need. I'll be happy to do that offline as well. But you have to go that extra mile. That if two people are going for the job interview, a man and a woman, why shouldn't they take you? That is your question for you. You have to say, I am better than him. I am going to get the job. Why shouldn't I get the job? I am not, I'm not less qualified than him. So that is what I think sometimes women lack. That it's no thing. I'm not doing a male bashing right here, but I'm just trying to say that you have to feel confident about it, and you're going to do very well. Just have that confidence in yourself. And women in STEM is just going to grow. It's going to explode. Believe me.
Fantastic. Great. Varada is asking you, what are your thoughts on increasing importance of sustainability in business?
Think sustainability is something which, even in University of New Haven, we have, so many courses on sustainability right now. We can't do it without sustainability. And I think in every part, whether it's in business, whether it's in education, we have to be very, very cognizant of the fact that, whether it's climate change, whether it's, being responsible citizens for sustainability is a very, very major thing. In CII, we play a major role in sustainability. We have a full center for sustainability. We have a whole group on sustainability, which is doing a lot of projects. And even in the University of New Haven, sustainability, we have huge courses on sustainability, and you can do a lot of things on that.
Finally, we'll take one last. We are already up on time. We'll take one last question from Rahul Kumar. Rahul is asking, what advice do you have for young professionals looking to make an impact in both business and education?
Okay, that's a good question. You can do it both. See, I've done both, right? Business and education. Maybe you can start an edtech company or something. So you'll do business and education both, right? So you can be an entrepreneur. In our times, of course, Ayan is much younger to me. We didn't have so many options. Today, the world is your oyster. You have limitless options. You can be an entrepreneur at the age of 23. You can do anything that you want to do. So maybe you can, do a business degree, you can learn the ropes, and then you can do something in education. I don't know where your passion lies, whether you want to run a management institute or a institute, or you want to build something, or you want to give back to society. It depends on what you want to do in education, because education is a very vast subject. So depending on that, if there's something you need, I can surely guide you at some point of time. Thank
Awesome.
you.
So, all viewers, Ranjanadi was gracious enough to say that anybody who needs any advice from her, please connect with her on LinkedIn, and feel free to reach out. But she's very busy, I must warn you. But I am sure I know her. She is one of the most helpful souls I have known. So I am sure that if you have looking for advice, I mean, you can reach out to her for help. And that was, I will tell you, there's an honest confession, Ranjanadi, this today's episode was one of my favorites. I mean, because the candor and the passion with which you answered the questions, that really, I and the viewers can also sense it, and it was so informative and as well as engaging, the whole discussion. And it so sits on the theme of maximizing human potential, that this is going to remain as one of my favorites, I'm sure. So just before wrapping up, I would like to say thanks to this team who helped us put this together, the team at Thinkly. So Thinkly is a platform which hosts curated content. It's an ad-free platform. It's very selective in terms of the content it hosts. It hosts actually curated content from some of the leading publications, and even including those of Nobel laureates in the world. And on this podcast, I have shared some of the guests who have been here, right from chairman of General Electric to CEOs of some of the largest companies in the world, to Bollywood personalities, social change agents, cybersecurity experts in the world, the top cybersecurity expert, AI expert. So we've had them all. But today's episode is going to stay one of a kind. Thank you so much for bringing so much impetus to it, Ranjanadi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ayan, and for having me here and being so kind and generous. And thank you, Thinkley, also for having me here. And I am very, very great as a host, and I have no words to say. And thank you, audience, also. Ayan, thanks a lot. I really mean it from
Thank
the
you.
bottom of my heart. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Ranjana. Have a great day ahead. Thank you, Thinkly team, Ria, Ganesh, and everyone else. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.